Success is a lonely journey.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
It's a lot of naysayers. It's a lot of people that don't believe. I started telling myself, you're him. You're that guy. You can do this. You can do this, because you have to have that type of belief, like in life and anything that you're going to do. He's like, I don't need a kid from Harvard. I don't need a kid from Yale. I need a performer.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome back to the studio. Today we have James Burbage, actor, entrepreneur, and jack of all trades. Human Swiss Army knife. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're going to have a great chat today. Getting to know you has been a pleasure over the past year. We've been looking at doing a podcast for some time now, talking about it. Finally made it back out here, got you into the studio. So where do you think we should start at? Because you've got a lot of initiatives going on, a lot of projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot happening. It's going to be a big year, 2026. Yes. We got a lot of momentum coming into it. Talk about acting. Yeah, that's my passion. That's my first love at the moment.
Cool. Yeah. Well, how did it all start for you? Like tapping into your creative side. Like I know you have 6 siblings. You're the youngest of 6. And that's a pretty big undertaking for a couple of parents.
Yeah.
Tapping into everyone's talents.
Ironically, I had a sister that was an actress. She went to school, Davis and Elkins in West Virginia, got a master's in theater, moved to New York City. I was a breakdancer when I was a kid, and I was performing in the malls and at the boardwalk in Ocean City where I grew up. And she said, you're a performer. There's this family theater play that's coming together, and you should get involved. And I ended up going out, got involved in the play, ended up becoming the counterpart to the lead in the play. And then my mom and everyone said that I stole the show. I was a breakdancing alien in the show.
That's awesome. I remember breakdancing like it was yesterday. That is so cool. How do you live to tell? Breakdancing, that'll take a toll on your body for sure.
Yeah, I'm a little big for it now. I can still pop and lock a little bit.
Yeah.
But I walked away with a trophy in 1986. I was the individual breakdance champion.
No way.
Where I grew up.
I love that.
Yeah, it was fun. I still had it up until a couple years ago. I used to carry the trophy around and pull it out.
I would too. That's a skill.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
fun.
even attempt. I can just imagine what I'd look like doing that. That'd be a mess.
Yeah, but it just showed me that I was a performer and that I liked to be in front of a crowd. It's something that excited me, and I love dancing. I was into art growing up. Did a lot of art league contests. Won a few contests. I did talent shows where I played the piano.
Cool.
And I was self-taught playing the piano, and it came really naturally, and I really enjoyed it. But later in life, in my teenage years, I got more into sports. My father was a big sports fan, was a basketball coach and a businessman. And I think I was always kind of like, striving to get his attention. Yeah. So I think when I got a little bit older, I think at one point in time, he actually told me, you know what, you're more of the artsy, flaky type. and that really bothered me. Yeah, that really kind of struck a nerve.
We're similar. So also my dad wasn't an arty type creative,
right?
And so I get it. Yeah.
So I think that's why I pursued business for a number of years and stepped away from the arts, things that really kind of fed the soul.
Yeah.
I actually had it was a little bit of a discipline problem in high school. Youngest of 6. My dad had left. I think when I was about 10 or 11 years old. So my mom was raising pretty much 6 kids by herself.
Wow.
So I pretty much ran wild, and I was getting in some trouble. And I got into, it was Olympics of the mind, and I had a really nurturing English teacher. And it was like spontaneous problem solving and these events and things that we did. But she asked me to do some writing, and I did a little bit of writing for her. And she told me that I was a gifted writer and that I should really pursue it. And back then I was like, be a writer? I want to be a football player. I'm going to be an astronaut. I don't want to be a writer. That doesn't sound too sexy, So it's just interesting. And now, at this age, it's something that I do often. And now I kind of see what she was talking about. And it's really therapeutic. It's very healing for me, writing about my life and things I've done. But I really enjoy it, and I see that it is a passion that I kind of suppressed for a long time.
Yeah, I could see where your mindset would go, like hearing that, because being a writer, it's like it's not very visible. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get exactly. I was tapped into all those things too, but I had two brothers 5 years older than me, very into sports. My dad was very into sports. I was more in like commercial art. I loved magazines, advertisements, all those kinds of things.
Right.
I never tapped into acting or anything like that. Definitely wasn't something that ever presented itself to me. But but the creative spark was always there. So I tapped into a bit of that. But I can appreciate what you say too. Obviously, that was your first passion, but you've traveled down the road of finance too.
Yeah. But it wasn't until after I moved to New York when I was 18. I knew in my heart that I wanted to be an actor. I didn't know how to go about it.
Right.
I got there. I wanted to go to American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Didn't have the money to do it. But I had the pamphlet. I had everything.
Yeah.
I went to this bookstore. I got this How to Be a Model book, and it was after I had gotten recruited to do a runway show. I was like, oh, maybe that's an avenue that I can pursue. Maybe that I can make a living doing that. So I'd done that, but I started to go to auditions, and it had a lot of letdowns by the time I was 18 years old. Like I said, it was a little bit of a discipline problem. I got myself in trouble. School wasn't working out. I thought I was going to be a college athlete. That didn't work out. All the things that I had dreamed about seemed like, it'd come to an end. And when you're 18 years old, it's the end of the world.
Everything's the end of the world.
It's the end of the world.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the confidence, and I would go on these auditions, and I was so nervous that I would just clam up, and I just didn't believe in myself. So after about I think it was about a year and a half, I folded up, and for the first time in my life, I waved the white flag, true defeat, and I went home to Maryland with my tail between my legs, and I gave up on acting, and I ended up on the side of a building doing restoration work on high rises, masonry, for a cousin.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is what my life has turned into, and I was pretty depressed about it. Honestly, I was like, I'm going to be a lifer townie in Ocean City, Maryland, where I grew up. And I had such big dreams for myself, and the realization of that just hit me one day. And I had bumped into these guys that were like 5 years older than me. Like, Burbage, what are you doing with yourself these days? And I was like, yeah, I'm hanging off the side of a building. I'm like, dude, that's nuts. They're like, if you got the balls and you're crazy enough to hang off the side of a building, you probably have the guts to call people over the phone and ask them to invest in commodities.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, I can't spell commodities. I was like, you kidding me? I was like, I don't know anything about finance. And like, no, you just got to come down. You got to take this Series 3 exam. If you pass that, you'll make a bunch of money. So I had a girlfriend at the time. Went back. I told her. I was like, yeah, these guys, they offered me an opportunity down in South Florida, and it's a lot better here than here in the Northeast. It's freezing. It's cold. I'm in Dickie coveralls, boots, gloves. I'm in a work trailer in the morning at 5 a.m. with a bunch of guys chain smoking that are 50 that look like they're 100. And I was like, I don't want that to be me. So she's like, why don't you go down? And I went down, and I wasn't successful. I literally took the Series 3 probably more than any man in history. And I failed, and I ended up coming back to Maryland for the second time with my tail between my legs. I hadn't gotten through the exam, but winter was setting in, and I wasn't going to get stuck on the side of a building again. So I had a friend that was an owner of a courier company on Capitol Hill in D.C., like Northern Virginia. Mm-hmm. And I got up there, and I met my ex-wife. She was going to school at George Mason, and she was, well, what were you doing in South Florida? And I was like, well, I was trying to be a commodity broker. She's like, well, why don't you try it one more time? And try to take the test. So I took it one more time, and I passed. And I ended up working for a firm called Chesapeake Investment in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, a guy named Yudi Chang. And I was doing well there, but then I called the guys back in Florida because I wanted them to know that, hey, the guy that's not the sharpest tool in the shed finally got
third time's charm.
Finally got through it. So I went back down. Still didn't make money for them because stocks had run, commodities had gone flat, and the brothers had split. The ones that were together that were having all the success. So I stayed for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years with them, and I was like, man, this isn't why I got in the money. Got in the business. I got in the business for the money. So I ended up putting my resume on Career Builder. I got a call from someone who had trained a lot of people that worked with Jordan Belfort at like Stratton Oakmont. These guys, they had sold everything from swampland, rare gems, oil. They had gotten grandfathered into the commodity business, and they had an operation down in Fort Lauderdale. I walked into this room, and you could just feel the buzz of just the energy. The whole parking lot was filled with Ferraris and Mercedes and BMWs. I looked at the production board, and these guys, I was like, wow. I was hooked, you know. And they're like, well, either you'll earn or you'll learn,
Right.
you know. So I was
Smells
like,
like success.
I'll stay here and I'll learn till I earn, you know. And I did, and then, but I mean, there was literally at one point where the owner came over to me and he's like, Burbage, you know, you're first in, you're last out. Like, why don't you think you're making any money? I said, I don't know. He's like, well, you're trying to do it your way. He's like, read this script verbatim. He's like, I don't need a kid from Harvard. I don't need a kid from Yale. I need a performer. And as soon as he said that to me, that light bulb went off. And I was like, yeah. He's like, I need you to take him on a magical ride. You can't be up here all the time screaming at people. You can't be here. You can't be monotone, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you got to take him on a journey from 0 to 60. And then when you call back to close, you got to take him from 60 to 120. And I was like, wow. And I was like, all right, I can do this. So I took my script and I highlighted where I kick in the door, you know, where you can't be afraid, you know, cold calling, because it was straight cold calling back then.
Right.
We were calling index cards from the Wall Street Journal, people that had subscribed. I mean, these people didn't even, you know, they weren't. So that toughened me up, I think, for acting. But, you know, that was the start of my financial services career. I ended up becoming the best fronter in that room. Then I became a closer. Then I went on to become a manager, like, of other operations. And then as a manager, the guys, after I built them a big operation, they tried to force me out. And everyone was like, hey, James, why don't you start your own deal? And I was like, I'm happy being a manager. But I didn't really have a choice because I had my second child at that point in time.
Yeah.
I had to make a living. And so we did that, and I started, and I hit the ground running. And from FedEx Kinko's on Okeechobee in West Palm Beach, we transferred about $4 million of the clients that were working with us that wanted to come with us. And out of like 26 people, 19 producers came with me.
Wow.
And we hit the ground running. And then I had a great run in the commodity market doing futures and options, high risk investments.
And at this point, you're married and you have your second child.
Yeah, I have my second child. I have 2 daughters at this point in time.
Yeah.
I've been married with the same woman who said, James, give it one more shot. And she was very instrumental in my success early on. She was from the Northeast. Very nurturing, very supportive. I never really had that in my home life. You know, my mom is Irish from Philadelphia. You know, you kind of got a pat on the back. You know, not a lot of unconditional love. You know,
the baby of 6. You know, so she had her hands.
Pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah.
You know, get it done. You know, so it was kind of like the love and support that I needed, and the family unit that I was always looking for growing up, and so that was really, really important to me. Was my family, and that's what drove me. That was my motivation. And so I had a great run, and then everything went online in 2008, and you weren't going to be able to make the same type of money.
Right.
You know, online was just changing. The commodity broker was becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
So I got rid of my big office in downtown West Palm. I moved into a small executive suite in Jupiter. I took like my 5 or 6 producers, and I was going to do international currencies because I understood that market, and it was unregulated. Because I found guys that could sell couldn't pass the test. Guys that could pass the test couldn't sell.
Right.
So if I could take people straight off the street and hire them and put them on the phone that day, I had a much better chance of them being successful.
Yeah.
You know, if I had to get them through the exam, sometimes it would be 6 months, and then they'd pick up the phone and they'd have such phone fear. They'd be like, can I use the bathroom real quick? And then they would vanish. They would disappear.
Oh, wow.
After all the time that you invest them just out of nerves.
Yeah.
You know? And we were kind of a rough and tumble bunch back then. So a lot of alpha type personalities, and it was kind of intimidating. So if you walked into a big room, this type of sales room, with the type of morning meetings that we had, if you weren't thick-skinned and
very
little callous,
yes.
you know, I could see the anxiety and you know the deer in the headlight look from certain individuals. But you know, we did that, and then I built a really good book of business in this one derivative product. After moving into this smaller office, I just happened to bump into a guy that had worked for me down the hall. He had run another office, and he talked about this opportunity with this derivative product. He said, yeah, it's unregulated, you know, doing what you know how to do. You can take people and get them on the phone and train them. That's your forte. So I did, and we ended up building a big operation in like 24 months.
Wow.
We raised a lot of money, and then I wanted to be in the business.
You really know how to get it done. Like getting to know you off camera and just talking to you now. Like,
thanks, Mike.
You know how to make things happen. You move at a good rate.
Yeah, sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned, I failed a lot with that approach as well. But like you hear, if you haven't failed lately, you're not trying.
Right.
You got to.
You're not afraid. That's what I like about you.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to take it on the chin.
Yeah.
But I've learned. We were speaking off camera earlier that I used to refer to myself as a human weeble wobble.
Yeah.
Growing up, you hit that weeble wobble, it goes side to side and back and forth, but it always lands on its feet because you know that movement's life. If you keep moving, and you don't quit, you never fail.
Right.
It might take you 10 years longer than you anticipated.
Yeah.
It might be a much longer journey and harder than you ever imagined. But if you keep your eye on the prize,
And when you set out to do something, you get it done. And like we were talking off camera, you mentioned people often come back around to point out, yeah, you said you were going to do that and you did it.
Yeah.
Like I get that a lot too from people. And it's like, there was never a timestamp on it. I said I was going to do it and it will happen as life unfolds.
Yeah. Success is a lonely journey.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
It's a lot of naysayers. It's a lot of people that don't believe. It's a lot of people that chip and just kind of try to tear down your ego,
Yeah.
your self-belief. And that's the mentally strong are the ones that are successful, the resilient.
I like too how you were able to pair in your passion for acting with the finance though.
Yeah,
Like once that guy said, flip the
That
script,
was it.
right?
Yeah. Well, I became a performer on the phone. He's like, jerk a tear.
Yeah.
If I go to the knee, you take a knee. Like he would give us line feeds.
Yeah.
And he'd like, the better performer you are, because some people move off of emotion.
Right.
People invest on emotion.
Yeah.
Fear and greed. We've seen the movies. It's so these are the things, and I learned that, and even with the marketing and the script writing, I used to tell people in like a morning meeting, I was like, I always wanted to be an actor, but I ended up here with you knuckleheads.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so, but I'm still writing scripts. I'm still creating marketing. So it's an expression. I said I don't get to paint pictures with a brush anymore, but I get to paint them with my words.
Exactly.
So that became the way my expression at that point in time was my artistic expression. Was how I sold on the phone.
Yeah.
And it was so different than everybody else that it made me, at one point we were doing about 80% of the business in the United States for the product that we were selling.
Yeah.
And then Dodd-Frank Wall Street reform came down the pike. That business went away. I went from being a self-made millionaire under 40 years old to being broke and pawning my watch, my jewelry, and selling anything that I had paid for cash just to keep the lights on because now I had 3 children, right? And they're in private school.
Wow.
And I'm scrambling, treading water, just trying to hold on to what I have. I've been muddied up a little bit, through some tough times, and and then everything fell apart. My marriage after 20 years fell apart from the stress of losing my business. Commodity business, dealing with high risk investments is extremely stressful. It took a toll on my mental health, my physical health. I put weight on. I was self-medicating, drinking too much, smoking too much weed, just doing, all the stupid things, all the same mistakes, that I had told all these guys that I was coaching not to make.
Yeah.
But when I had a certain level of success, and then when everything was slipping away, I was like, oh, I need to cope. So I started breaking my own rules, and so everything fell apart. And then when I hit rock bottom, I was like, you know what? I got nothing left to lose. I literally have lost everything. So here's my opportunity to stay true to myself and go after what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? If being an actor is just about rejection, I've been kicked in the nuts like 300-400 times a day for years, cold calling people. I can definitely do that. If it's just about rejection, about hearing no, I was like, every no is just one step closer to a yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
And if I approach acting the same way I approach sales, okay, if I send out 10 packages, 1 out of 10 will close. If I do 100 auditions, I'll book 1. It's the same concept. So I've taken, you got to know your analytics, and it's the gift of being right brain and left brain.
Yeah.
Where I have the creative side, but I know that, all right, I don't really have to think about the outcome. Don't think, just do.
Right.
Where a lot of actors and a lot of performers and entertainers are like, I didn't get the gig.
No, I learned as part of the process.
Yeah.
No matter what it is in business or in acting, like whatever we're talking about, you need those no's to get the right yes.
Absolutely. And for me, like being on the phone that many years, and then I gave a morning meeting like every day, and I spoke to new faces all the time because so few people made it. It was such a turnover. It took a diamond in the rough really to make it, to do what we did. So we saw so many people that I became callous, and I had to deal with such high pressure and stressful stuff and such large amounts of anxiety that now I was callous. Now I think I could in my mind, I was like, audition in front of strangers,
Right.
speak to a crowd. You know, I did the Money Show in Las Vegas, and I was a keynote speaker in front of like 500-600 people. And I was like, okay, I can handle a crowd. I can speak in front of people now.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I think I'm going to, I started calling people that I knew that were close to me. I said, they're like, what are you going to do with yourself? You know, you're going to get back and you're going to put together another company. And I'd put together another company. And I said, I think I'm going to put it on the shelf. You know, I think it's going to be a plan B. Mm-hmm. I think my plan A is I'm going to get both feet in with being a working actor. And they're like, yeah, that tracks. That makes sense.
Right.
I can see you doing that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can. Yeah, but the way you're wired, I think you could do it. I believe in you. And after about the fourth or fifth person that I said that to told me, and I was like, And then I reached out to a friend and I was like, hey, I want to make a serious run at being a working actor. And do you know anybody that's a photographer that could do my photos and that would pack a punch? And he's like, yeah, how about one of the most famous celebrity photographers in the world, Kevin Lynch?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that'll do, So he sent me over to see Kevin, and he became like a father figure, like a mentor to me, and took me underneath his wing, did my photos, and then we just became friends. Every time I would come to his studio, he would just like, the lighting's great. I want to do more pictures of you. Just the way you're sitting right now.
You have great photos. Would you say that your photos now are also inspired by photography work that he did with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all still the same photography.
Yeah.
I have so many photos from him.
Yeah.
I mean, I paid him once and he continued. We started to do favors for each other. I would help him out with some of his shoots, setting up, the cameras and everything, because he was suffering from muscular dystrophy.
Oh, wow.
And he had some issues with his health. So, like I said, he became my best friend.
Yeah.
He became my best friend, and he kept doing photos. And then he was like my biggest advocate and cheerleader. And he's like, James, I've worked with everybody. I've worked with every A-list actor from Kevin Costner to Jason Statham. Everybody. He's like, you can do this. He's like, I believe in you. And I still wasn't sure, but having this man of this caliber,
you hear it from the right person.
Yeah. And I was like, I just really started to believe, and it gave me the confidence that I needed, but I still didn't have an agent, and I didn't know how. I didn't know anything about acting or really how to go about getting representation or anything. And then ironically enough, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? I was like, all right, here's a formula of a guy that got in really good shape.
Yeah.
So let's start there, right? My father had just passed, and he's like, with your genetics, you're such a great athlete. He's like, why don't you do one of those bodybuilding shows? Why don't you do that? And I was like, whatever, maybe it's a cool idea, Then he passed, and I was grieving. I was grieving so bad because my dad was really, when I got older, I'd gotten him into the commodity business. He had been a salesman. He was the person's attention that I was always, aiming for.
Sure.
And I ended up getting him into the business, and he became so proud of me, and everything that I had accomplished. And he was my biggest cheerleader before Kevin passed, or before he passed. And then I got in great shape, and I picked a contest, and I didn't know which contest I was competing in. I was like, all right, whatever. I just signed up, NPC, National Physique Committee, and it happened to be the California State Championships, right? And I didn't get a coach. I just did YouTube nutrition. I trained myself. I was living down in San Diego at the time. It was right before the pandemic ended, really. And I went to this competition, and I ended up getting second place in the competition.
I saw the photo. Those are great photos. Yeah.
It was crazy because I didn't even know how to pose. Really.
Yeah.
I just looked at a couple poses. I picked up some good music, but I smiled, and I did a lot of things that most bodybuilders didn't do because they weren't having a good time. They looked too stiff. So I didn't have anything to lose, so I didn't really give a shit, honestly,
Yeah.
So I was just having fun with it, and I think that kind of came through. But if you get second in an NPC contest, it qualifies you to go to nationals.
Yeah,
right?
cool.
So I ended up going to Scottsdale, and I ended up getting third in the entire United States for my age division and height and all of that. So I was in really good shape, and that was right before I got the pictures done with Kevin. So now I'm probably in the best shape of my adult life.
Yeah.
Right. I have photos, to use for my acting, for my casting network, for acting access, everything that I needed. And but right before that had happened, I was at Gold's Gym. I'm on the treadmill. A guy that I was friendly with for years that I would talk to goes, James, I know your background is financial services. He goes, you ever think about entertainment? Like, you ever think about being an actor?
Yeah.
I was like, this is weird. I was like, I just put this out to the universe.
Yes.
I just manifested this conversation. I had just told all my friends, the 4 or 5 people that I was telling you about, I'm going to make a run at being a working actor. Now this guy's asked me, he's like, I'm a scout for Terry Mandel.
Oh, you're kidding
Howie
me.
Mandel's wife. And he's like, I think Terry'd be really interested in representing you. And I was like, hell yeah. I was like, it's so funny. I was like, this has been my dream. So the very first thing that I booked was Jack Krauser, Resident Evil 4.
Wow.
I had to show up at the big studio. I had to go to knife fight training with Travis Wong out in the valley. Does all the stunts and probably the majority of the films that you see. So it was surreal. And then I got to set and they're like, oh, you know what to do. And I'm like, I have an idea. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean?
You're good on the fly.
Yeah, but I'm fumbling around. I'm faking my way through it. I didn't even know what Resident Evil 4 video games. I never played the game. I didn't know it was a 20-year iconic video game.
Yeah.
And when you do these shoots, they don't tell you. It just says video game shoot.
Right.
You show up and you do it, and then like afterwards, and later on, someone said, "You played Jack Krauser?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Well, like for the video game, like they use his face, but it's my body doing the knife fighting and all of that." So that was my start, and then I got Welcome to Wrexham, where I got to Sean Harvey. I got to play the demonologist for. The Legion of the Exorcist, Eli Roth.
Cool.
All big projects.
Yeah.
You know. Then I got
That's a clear universal push. Like when you met the guy, that you were friendly with at the gym, but had no idea what his role was, or going to be in your life. Like that's the next push.
That confirmed it to me. That confirmed that like I was on the right track.
Yep.
And then, I started telling myself, you're him. You're that guy. You can do this. You can do this because you have to have that type of belief, like in life and anything that you're going to do, because there are so many naysayers, and the closest ones are your family most of the time. And what are you doing off there in La La Land? Get a real job. What are you doing? You should go back to doing what you're good at. Why would you in midlife at your age? Why would you pursue being an actor? Do you know how tough that industry is? Like, yeah, but it makes me feel good.
Yeah,
it makes my soul feel good, and I feel alive and. I don't even care about the money. I had all the cash and prizes, and it was like, when I had the most zeros next to my name and the most shiny things, I was never the most miserable in my life.
Right.
And then at that time, it was almost like a postpartum feeling after a woman has a baby. I was like, now what? This is success, and so I get that feeling when I'm on stage, when I perform, or when I'm in front of a camera, or when I'm writing, or like when I'm painting, anything creative, any type of expression, I get that feeling that I never really had.
Makes
making
sense.
money.
And what I like about you too is that you have an openness and a willingness, like how you said, like you didn't even know Resident Evil, like exactly what you were getting into. You just knew you were showing up for a call on a video game shoot, and it happened to be that, and you rolled with it. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of, I think, where that puts the spark in you, is that like kind of the unknown. And you need that, right? Like I do. I need
it's excitement. That's what you thrive on. And it's just as a kid, everything when you're growing up, we all have that,
right? And
we get to a certain age, we lose that, and we become so
because we chase the security. Like we were talking off camera, it was like chasing the security, and then you have it, and then now what?
Right.
And then it's like you kind of need that spark under you lit, like all the time, to keep going.
And it's just a good feeling when you're being true to yourself, and you're not living your life for everybody else. Your wife, your ex-wife, your girlfriend, your father, your mother, or your sisters, your buddies, whatever it is. Like, this is me. This is what I like. This is what I enjoy. Love me or hate me.
Yeah.
This is me, and when you get to that stage, and also when you lose everything and you see who the real people in your life that really care, there's a certain level of freedom in that.
Not to mention the mortality. Like I've lost a brother and many close friends, and over the years it's taken a toll. And you watch that mortality; it just becomes more prevalent in your life, where you're paying attention to the fact that you should be living your dreams, not anybody else's. And you experienced that too. You've experienced loss, both in separation from your wife and the loss of siblings. You know, I mean.
Yeah, I've lost the sister right after my father died. Cindy, that was the theater actress that I couch surfed on her couch when I moved to New York before I got my own place when I was 18.
Yeah.
My father was passing. We were at my mom's, and my oldest daughter was having a lot of issues, and I went to Maryland to walk my dad home, and she caught me on the back porch, and she goes, "James, why did you ever go into finance?" She was like, "You were such an artist." She's like, "Why?" And I was like, "I had a family, Cindy. I had to provide. I had to get a job. It was a necessity. It's like something that I chose, you know." And it was just for some reason that kind of like, you know, and that conversation didn't end well. And it was the last conversation I ever had with her before she passed. And I said some unkind things back because I was insulted to a certain extent because it hurt me because I knew that I sold out.
Feeling defensive.
Feeling defensive, but feeling like she was right. You know, like
I get it.
I wasn't true to myself. So I said some nasty things back that to this day that, you know, I'm not proud of. But that's siblings and things that happen. And that was a big push for me, you know, 'cause she was like, you should pursue it. And then, you know, I've seen a lot of quotes and a lot of motivation, listened to a lot of motivational speakers and stuff growing up. And it's never too late. You know,
everyone's really not.
Yeah.
It's really not. That sounds cliche when you say it to other people or you hear it, but it's not. It's true.
I mean, you might be too late to play certain roles, but it's, you know, I want to act when I'm 80 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I see these actors that are in their 80s that are still working. Mm-hmm. It's because they love to perform.
Yeah.
You know, they love the work. They love the message. And for me, a lot of my character that I took into business, a lot of like the way that I was able to motivate guys to be successful on the phone, it all came from movies that I watched.
Yeah.
It all came from a movie that I watched or a play that I read or that I watched in New York growing up. I mean, I think I saw the very first Annie, you know, and I remember the songs, you know, it's a hard knock life, you know, and my sisters used to sing it, you know, and like just, you know, and just performing and, you know, starting early with the break dancing and then.
We're from the same generation, so we came up on the same stuff.
Yeah.
And isn't it kind of sometimes disheartening that we're never going to see some of the great things that we got to see and be a part of throughout our childhood and coming up, like break dancing and like the whole movement of MTV and video music television,
the authenticity,
yes,
you know, and the originality,
right?
You know,
Thriller, Michael Jackson, like, can you imagine?
I mean, to this day, there's basically everyone's still remaking and redoing all of that.
Yeah,
and the sad thing is, you know, we were speaking about this as well. Is we've turned into instant gratification nation. You know, people become Instagram stars and make a bunch of money, but they haven't really done anything.
Right,
TikTok. They haven't earned it. You know, and you know, and that's fine. I'm not knocking at anybody. I don't throw stones at glass houses.
There's something to be said for hard work.
Yeah,
you know, I love it.
And
I like working
and suffering and having to go through the process of doubt and doubting yourself, and you grow as a human being. You know, I mean, that's the human experience.
Yeah.
You know, I've never grown when I'm having success.
Right.
You know, I for some reason, when I've had the most success in my life, I've changed the formula. I've gotten fat cat. I stopped getting up early. You know, I wasn't following the blueprint that I followed that made me successful.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like you saw it in Rocky IV when he, you know, like different movies. I go back to these movies, you know, and then he goes to Russia.
Yeah.
He starts training in the gym. And you guys probably all know a guy by the name of Mike O'Hearn, two-time, you know, like, he saw me in Gold's Gym and he's like, you're like Rocky, like in Russia. He's like, you're in here training by yourself all the time. You're never with anybody. He's like, if you actually worked out with us and all these guys, he's like, man, you would go somewhere and, you know, you could really, you know, do well with competing. But my mind was like, I never got in shape to do this, to be a bodybuilder and compete. Right. I did it because I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
You know, my goal wasn't to be a bodybuilder. But I appreciate it, Mike. You know, thanks for the you know, pat in the back and the kudos. You know, and he's a great guy, and I, you know, respect him a lot. And he's actually having a great career as an actor as well. But you know, it's just that growth that you go through in those dark, hard times.
It's in the details.
Yeah,
really, that's where all the growth happens, in the darkness.
Devil's in the details.
Yeah, the devil's in the details. Yeah. It truly is. And I know when I went through all my struggles when I was starting up my first business, you know, starting up my office on an air mattress, you know what I mean? It was like, I never was more happy during that time though. Like we talked about, it was like when you have everything you need and there's security, but nothing, there's no pilot light lit. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing there. It's just
no hunger.
No hunger. I like having something to shoot for, and then inspiring others, like bringing people along. Like you've got all these initiatives. You have a foundation. Most of the things that you've put together involves team building, and you're great at that. Like you sound like an amazing mentor and a amazing team member.
Thank you.
You're not just a single one man show. There's a team around you at all times.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, but you're cognizant of it and you recognize it, and you're great at bringing the right people into the mix for the initiatives that you've got going.
Yeah, that's always been a skill set is putting the right people together, and then being humble enough to know what I'm good at and what I'm not, and then and that's a big thing. You can't lead thinking that you're a master of everything, and you've got to have some vulnerability and be willing to lead from the front and show that vulnerability.
Yeah, it's like you can do anything, but you can't do everything right all at once. So that's where the team comes in, and it's my favorite thing to do is call out what I'm not good at, because then you get to bring the team together, and it's like you're great at this, I am not. Let's work from here.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have a much smaller circle now in my life. I had a lot of people that were like, "Oh, James, you're great. This and that." And when I went through that reboot, so to speak, I was very picky and choosy about who I let back into my world. Yeah. And character is huge. And for me, it's not about money. It's about doing the right thing, and it's about taking care of other people and helping them find their passion and helping them stay true to what they're seeking, and not falling in and settling into industries or opportunities and society telling them that you have to do this for us to say that you're a good successful person. Right. If you don't do this, then you're a bum, or you have no initiative. A lot of people are misunderstood, and they need the right support. And
people don't understand what success really is defined by.
Right.
But defined by you and what's fulfilling your heart, I think. And I think over the years, generationally, it's been defined as status and possessions. Right.
I say success is if I meet someone that's happy, that's the most successful guy I've met this year.
Yeah.
That's my definition of success, is someone that's found happiness, and it's consistent happiness, and it's not attached to, a car or a house or a trophy girlfriend or wife or boyfriend or husband or, whatever the case may be. It's just someone that has, learned to love themselves, and within that, they can give back to other people and kind of pass that torch. Yeah, because it's the human condition. We all suffer from it. We all think we're special little snowflakes, and we're so different. Right, and that we're the only ones that deal with like depression and loss and heartache and heartbreak and all of this stuff. But we all feel the same thing, but we all just bump around, and we're all too afraid to
We're all living our own movie.
Yeah.
Like you brought up Rocky, and you, throughout your life, you pointed out that you revert back to certain movies that remind you of what you're experiencing at that time. Yeah. So I do the same thing. And when I started up my first business, I had like a soundtrack, like, cause I would work out like religiously. And that was a key point in building my business, was building my mindset, my body, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all that tied up for me. And tapping into all that, the music brought all of it out. And it was like developing that soundtrack was just the movie of my life. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
There's like certain soundtracks that I play, and it takes me to a place in time in my life. Yep. And right now I'm working on, I don't even want to say the title of it, because obviously for intellectual property rights, you want to kind of keep close to the hip. Yeah. But I've written my story, and it's 10 years in the making, and it took me until the past 24 months to finally do it.
Cool.
So I have a story. It's going to developing it for streaming television, because it's too much content for a feature film. Yeah. And it's a cross between me growing up, which is a little bit like Shameless, the television series, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Cool. Without the thievery and the stop, pump and dump manipulation. Right. But a lot of the crazy stories, and that's something that it's been very therapeutic writing that, because I see where I started. I saw the financial services. I saw the arc of making it to entertainment, and now that I became a regular on General Hospital. you know?
Yeah, amazing.
Started out, people were like, this is your first time on the show. They're like, we've been on the show for 4 years. We've never had a speaking part. I was like, wow, okay, this is, doing really well. Casting director for ABC said I did a really good job, kept asking me back. That developed. Then I did some worldwide commercials that people overseas were like calling, like, hey, the woman that I was dating at the time, did I see your boyfriend, in London on this television commercial? Did I see him in Germany? Like, so that was cool. And then on the 20th, I get to go to the Chinese theater for my first red carpet event.
Cool.
And I have a movie coming out called Clica. And Clica means gang in Latin. And I play a dirty LAPD sheriff. And I share the screen with Peter Green. God rest his soul. He just passed. Peter and I became good friends. We worked on set for a day, but both of our mothers were suffering from dementia. And we kind of bonded over that.
Yeah.
And he was a New York guy. You know, I'm a Northeast guy. So we kind of hit it off right away. Eric Roberts is in that. Master P is in it.
Cool.
A bunch of other names, and it's a great film, and I'm excited about it. It got stalled for a little bit in post-production, and then a few other things, but it hit 17,000 screens exclusively in theaters on the 23rd, 3 days after the red carpet premiere.
That's exciting.
Super excited.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And it's exclusively in theaters, so we're getting people back into theaters.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's
that's exciting too. Like coming back to our conversation about how things used to be.
Right.
I hope to see things go in the future towards what we came up on: movies, excitement, television, getting away from influencers and focusing on talent and creativity.
Yeah, I remember going with my dad and my family when we were young to the theater in New York City, and the whole theater hooting and hollering, and
it's an experience.
People, it was an experience. And you're like, wow, this is crazy. People are commenting. People are, it gave that community aspect of watching.
That's what I love.
Watching film.
I love community, and I love creating experiences for people because it's so moving. You know what I mean? You remember those experiences for the rest of your life. We'll never forget how we grew up.
Right.
You know what I mean? During that time, it'd be so cool to create that nowadays for young folks.
I think it's needed because everyone has become so isolated, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah.
People got so used to just kind of staying in their own little, lane that they don't get together anymore. There's not, I say it all the time. Like I was into CrossFit for a few years until I snapped an ankle. I liked the community aspect. I wasn't really that excited about CrossFit and the workouts. I probably didn't look that great when I worked out. I was skinny fat. I was in great cardio shape, but I didn't like the way my body, but I kept going back because I love the community.
Yeah,
I love the community aspect. There's been some other things that I've been involved with. Like, why do you do that? Like the hiking groups or something like that. It's community. I like talking to people.
Yeah.
I think as human beings, we need to be social. And I think I think it's a lot of what's happening in like our society right now, especially with the younger people, is that everyone has become so isolated that there is, there's no growth,
right?
And people are becoming more depressed. And that's why we're having so many more suicides. That's why addiction's on the rise. Because when people don't interact with other people, I think that's where people really get depressed.
I think so too.
Right.
It's isolation, and then that's where the self-medication comes in, and then you don't even know you're down that rabbit hole.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you're isolating even more because you don't want people to know that you're self-medicating.
Yeah.
You're hiding things.
Exactly.
Keeping secrets.
Exactly.
That's hard. And then I think too, like I'm looking forward to moving into 2026, seeing less remote work.
Yeah.
That's very isolating too.
Yeah.
And I think people get addicted to it.
Yeah.
I was kind of forced into allowing people to work remote with my first business.
Right.
And I did it begrudgingly, and I'm getting away from it. I'm trying to pull back on that because I need to bring people together. Right. It's like, that's what's in me. And
even now I work from home in between, productions and I sell gold. I got back into, selling over the phone.
Yeah.
Because I could work from home.
Right.
But I am so much less of a salesman now than when I was working in a room full of other guys like myself, because I get a little bit from this guy. I get a nugget from this guy.
Yes.
I get something and I get to massage it. And then there's the energy of the room, of a team, the camaraderie.
Yes.
And I remember one of my mentors used to say, sales is like the final high five from like sports. He's like, in life, we get older and we grew up in, Pee Wee League football, basketball, we wrestled, martial arts, whatever it may be, competitively. And then all of a sudden we're an adult and we slump to work, we slump back, we pay bills, we do this, and there's no more high five. We're in sales, like, I just closed a deal. Good job, man. High five. And it was like the final high five. So the isolation of like working remotely, and
it's harder to tap into people's gifts.
Yeah,
like how you just said, you take a piece from this guy, a piece of this guy, and then massage it, and it's like, that's team building, and then you are the amalgamation of the 5 people you spend the most time with, kind of deal, and it's like you need those people.
You feed off their energy. Yeah, It's like I'm going to get motivated because he's motivated. I might not be motivated today.
Right.
I could be having some personal issues, with a spouse, a daughter, somebody that's causing some grief in my life. I may have had some car troubles. Usually somebody will joke about things and make it lighten up when you're in those group settings. But when you're left to your own device and sit home, and then now you got to perform,
right?
Unless you're an extreme self-starter, fortunately I am. But sometimes it's difficult.
For me too.
I have some days where I'm like, all right, I got to go take the dog for a walk around the block here and come back and reset. Because I'm just not feeling this today.
Yep.
And I never felt like that when I walked into a sales floor with other people. And then there's the competitive aspect too. I'm competitive.
Okay.
I like to
healthy competition.
Yeah, healthy competition. Just the fact that it's going to push me because something.
You don't strike me as the type of guy that competes in a way to keep somebody else down, but to elevate and right.
Yeah.
Together
healthy competition. Yeah. I've never had that in me where I want to benefit from someone else's demise or someone else feeling, and that's what made me like a really good sales manager and good owner, and gave me the ability to build companies the way that I was able to do it, was because I treated everyone like family.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I hire you, I'm taking on your mortgage, I'm taking on your wife, I'm taking on all your responsibilities that you have to deal with. I'm not just going to use you and choose you up like so many businesses and companies do.
Yeah.
I always said that's short money. If they get to see the vision, the long term of working with someone and actually, helping them overcome their fears, overcome what they're not good at, their weaknesses, but couching it in a nice way. Not ridiculing them, not being overly critical to the point where they lose confidence in themselves.
Right.
And, I had a good mentor. He's like, James, it's like the military. He's like, I'm going to break you all the way down. He goes, but then I'm going to build you all the way back up.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm going to point out all those things that, that those ums and that and those things. I remember we used to record our conversations. We had this guy that looked like Mr. Smithers from The Simpsons.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. He would come out.
Yes.
And he'd point to you and he'd be like, oh God, the devil wants me, and you'd have to go take your tape and he would plug it in there. And he'd push play and he's like,
listen to yourself.
He's like, what'd you buy from you? And he's like, I get somebody pumping gas that sounds better than you right now.
That's a great tool. That's interesting, actually. This is something I like about AI right now, is that we can now record our meetings.
Yeah.
And it breaks it down and gives you a summary of what everyone said.
I love that too.
Yeah.
That's
great.
One
one plus about the technology these days. Yeah.
Definitely AI for everything from writing, and then just the ideas, even to enhance upon a paragraph that you've written,
Editing.
Yeah. Editing. Yeah. Grammar. Cause that was a big thing that stopped me. A lot of times I'm like, well, I didn't go to school for English. Just write.
Right.
Just write. Just get it out there. And then, with everything else, you get somebody to edit it for you. Just get it out. Doesn't matter if it's spelled wrong. Doesn't matter if it doesn't have a period, if it doesn't have an exclamation part.
Right.
Just get it out, and I think even dictation nowadays helps a lot of people. So if you're not a good writer, if you can't type, no big deal. If you got something to say, get it out there, say it. There's a way. There's always a way.
What is some advice for an aspiring actor that wants to get involved in something that has no idea where to start? Like you said, you had it in you, but you just had no guidance or direction. Yeah. What if someone's listening to this right now and they want to, jump in the mix?
I think the first piece of advice is, do you really want to be a performer or do you want to be famous? Because if you want to be famous, then stick to Instagram or something like that. If you really want to be an actor because it feeds your soul, then you don't have to go to acting school, because most of the times they're going to take away a lot of the authentic stuff that just comes out of you, like in that scene.
Yeah.
And you can, I'm not knocking or dissing, getting acting coaches and all of that. It's worked well for a lot of people. But I would say, just read as many plays as you can read and get into theater. Get into theater, because in theater, you're in front of a live audience. You know, they're not stopping the camera. They're not cut here. Let's redo this. You've got to come and do the same play every night.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to do the same performance, and that's you're going to evolve, and you're going to gain confidence in doing theater. And then from there, you know, get pictures, get representation, you know, self-promote, you know, build an Instagram page, put your pictures on there.
Yeah. Get a good photographer.
Get a great photographer.
Yeah.
Get a great photographer that shows you, you know, when it comes to these acting reels, you don't need to go to these people that are going to charge you tons of money to put together like a sizzle reel of your acting reel, especially if you haven't booked any work yet and you're just doing, you know, I did scenes from Rambo, you know, I did different scenes, and I didn't like any of it because it didn't showcase me.
Right.
And they had me do Get Shorty, where I played Travolta, where he's looking for his coat in the coat room, you know, and I didn't like any of it. And I was like, that's really not me. And that's kind of why I'm saying this now. I think with a smartphone nowadays and a few kids from scene study, I think scene study is great. You know, doing a scene and then performing that on stage, you know, going to acting classes and stuff like that. You know, I don't know if that's necessary. I'm a big advocate of scene study though. Okay. You take a scene, break the scene down, and then go and perform that with some other people. And then take those other individuals that you were in scene study with, or other actors that you might know from around town that are chasing the same dream, pull out a script, take out a scene that you want to do, take your iPhone and create your own sizzle reel.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, take a look at the self-tapes that we do nowadays anyway, that we send in to get booked.
Right.
They're no better than that.
Yeah.
You know, and the quality that you have, I mean, we've got more technology in the palm of our hands now than we had when we put a man on the moon.
Exactly.
You know, so with the editing apps and everything, you know, you can do it. So there's really, you know, we in our heads, we create these mental stop gaps that keep us from moving forward. Well, I can't do it because I need an agent. You can just, you know, AI. What are the best agencies that I can contact?
Yeah.
Okay. You
in
know,
Google.
Yeah, you know, it's all right there. You know, and it's easier. And you don't have to be in Los Angeles anymore. You don't have to be in New York.
Right.
You can be anywhere in the country and get representation. Obviously, if it's a local job, they're going to want to hire local talent unless you're willing to travel and you've got that type of money.
Yeah.
But with self-tape auditions, you can literally be anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And if you have a casting network, number one, it's going to cost you a very minimal amount of money to set up a casting network page, and it just tells you about tells everyone about you. Yeah. It's things you can do. If you can dance, you can tap dance, you know, if you can power lift, if you know martial arts. These are all the things they're looking for when they're casting for certain parts. If you can sing, if you can play the piano, if you can ride a unicycle, whatever it may be.
Juggle.
Yeah, juggle. You have that all listed. You've got some great photos, and then you take that little reel that you've created and you put it there, and then they start sending you, and then just do the work. Don't think about the audition and the outcome of the audition. Yeah. You know, just don't. I tell people this all the time. Don't think, just do. Yeah. You know,
it's like Nike. Just do it.
Yeah. My dad used to say this too, and he had a lot of nuggets, you know, when he was around. A lot of nuggets. Everything in life is a 6-inch business. It's all between your ears. Yeah. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. It's that simple. Yeah. You know,
it's true.
And, you know, just by, you know, taking those auditions, you do it. And like sometimes I'll get a call back from something I'm like, I don't even remember doing that audition. Right. You know, I did that, and then I'll look it up and I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. And then I'll book that. And it's the ones that I knock out of the park. And I'm like, I'm getting that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Isn't that the way it goes?
I'm going overseas. I'm getting that. I'm like, wah, wah, wah. You know, anytime I get, you know, that attached to it. Yeah. And it's always the ones I was like, it was all right. You know, and I'll book that. Yes. Yeah. So you don't know. And don't take it personal, because they know exactly what they're looking for. Those directors and those producers, when they're in casting. Yeah. They're looking for something very specific, and it has nothing to do with if you're a good actor, a bad actor. They're looking for a certain look, and it's very, very specific to that, and it has nothing to do with you. So if you have thick skin and you don't get overly sensitive, you're going to have a lot better chances at being successful, because you're going to be consistent. So just keep moving. It's in the numbers, just like in sales. Yeah, auditioning it's the numbers. Mm-hmm. The more casting directors you get in front of, I've actually had people call me back and cast me on something. They're like, James, we saw your audition for something else. You were really close. You're in the top 3. You didn't get it. They went for a different look, somebody they're looking for. But we were so impressed with your audition but we'd like to book you on this other production.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's how it shakes down.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
And I see, a lot of actors that I talk to that've been in town for 20 years here. They're like, oh no, I'm above that. I did theater for this number of years. I'm not going to go do a job for $250 for the day.
Right.
I did a job for $350 and it got me booked in a movie.
Exactly.
Exactly.
we have a very similar mindset when it comes to that stuff. It's the devil's in the details, right?
Yeah. So you never know where something's going to lead, but if you always act like you're too good for something, or it's because people are looking for work ethic, and then they're looking for commitment, and then how you play with others. Like when I leave a set, I've become friends with everyone on that set.
Yeah.
And because I make it a point to say, talk and just like I was in financial services, and I got it from sports. Be the first to practice. Stay after practice.
Yep.
Give 110%.
If you're not early, you're late.
Yeah.
You're not early. This conversation.
Yeah. If you're not early, you're late. If you're not a half hour early, you're late.
That's right.
So I show up. That's how I show up to set.
Yeah.
And then when I went to ABC, which is network television, the casting director, been there for 40 years. He said, James is first in. He's always, he's here. He comes professional, does his work, leaves, and that's it. You want to be presented as a professional. You want to show up with your.
You beat me to the set today, and I'm always early. I'm normally even earlier than I was today, but it said in the studio details not to come too early.
I just know my way around town a little better. That's all. I had the advantage today.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. It was awesome. No, but it speaks to your character. Everything you say is true.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I really do.
It's fantastic. I've had a great time getting to chat with you today. And the audience, they can catch you on General Hospital.
Yeah, General Hospital, Klika on the 23rd of January.
Yeah.
It'll be on 17,000 screens exclusively in theaters. Go out, buy a ticket, support theater, watching movies in movie theaters again.
That's amazing. And then what about your social media handles?
It's James_Burbage, triple L. I'm on there a lot, constantly posting about different projects and productions that I'm working on. Sharing some little nuggets. I never try to give advice. I just give suggestions and things that have worked for me.
Love it.
I'm not a big proponent of advice, because we all have it and some of it stinks.
Right.
But I just share what has worked for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just about overcoming obstacles. So I use it for that platform. I've not really been, even though I've got a good following, I don't do it for likes or for engagement.
Right.
I do it as a creative expression.
Yeah.
And
It's a great way to showcase your photography also, because you have great pictures. You always have great content. And even today's post, you were doing I can't remember what you referred to it earlier in the episode. You were talking about recording yourself and putting it out there.
Yeah.
You were doing a scene.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a scene. It was an audition.
Yeah,
an audition that I had done, and just putting it out there. And it's just the willingness to, put it out there, put your chin out there, and who cares who comments, what they have to say. That's what, you have to have that.
You never know who's looking.
You never know who's looking.
Yeah.
And all the people that would say something negative, you've heard The Rock say it. They're behind you.
Yeah.
All those people, all the doubters, all the haters, they're the ones. They're so envious that you're trying, because I love this saying that most people are so paralyzed by the fear of failure that they never really try.
Absolutely.
They're so paralyzed by the fear that they may fail, or that they may get judged, or somebody may think less of them or laugh at them. And I remember a mentor once again, he said, listen, man, if the whole room isn't laughing at you, you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
You got to be making a fool out of yourself sometimes. And in those magic moments, that's where you shine.
Starting is what stops most people.
Yeah.
I have this giant canvas cassette. It's a giant canvas cassette tape, and it says starting is what stops most people on the top.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. And you also have an IMDb too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's on there, all my credits, lots of reels, work that I've done. So I've got an IMDb Pro page. I've also got Epic Film Fund, which we're developing, and we're doing a lot of projects with some very established people that know a lot more about entertainment than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at hitching on to the right people.
Building a good network.
Yeah. So I've hitched on to some people that are just really good character too.
Yeah.
It is Los Angeles, it is Hollywood. There are, a lot of people that are for lack of a better term, full of shit.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know?
That happens.
And, so I look for people with a proven track record of success, not only of that, but just are good characters, good people,
Absolutely.
and they want to tell a good story, and they want to take care of everyone that's involved. And then the big passion project that's super close to my heart is the Art Heals Foundation. And that is an opportunity to help emerging artists that are coming up, whether they're painters, they're writers, actors, musicians, to, they might not be able to get a studio to show their photography.
Yeah.
They might not know how to put together a production to showcase them being a conductor or a composer, painter, whatever the case may be, or a playhouse. And they might, but they have something to show the world and something they want to share with the world. So we've put together this foundation because I believe in my heart, through my siblings, my personal experience, that the expression of creativity in all forms, it heals the heart, it heals the soul.
Absolutely.
And I'm just excited about it because, like I said, I've had the cash and prizes, and it was pretty empty. I'm not really into chasing dirty green paper anymore.
Right.
I think our legacy in life is how many people we can impact, and what we can leave behind, and how many lives that we can change for the better. And I've struggled with dark times and depression and heartache and heartbreak. And I know that being creative and writing and all those things and painting and drawing and performing and acting, it's healed me.
Yeah.
And
It's an amazing foundation. And I think you're right. I think it's the best therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's free.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that network, that foundation sounds amazing. And so that's just helping people, it provides a platform for people to help tap into their creativity and bring it out of them. And
and like you said, I had some loss with some siblings and my best friend and a couple people. And so I had a back burner for a little bit. But I'm really making a hard push in 2026 to bring an impact to the community.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to 2026 with the collaborations with you.
Yeah,
And,
I'm excited.
All the other people that I'm getting involved with, and all the right people are coming together to help others tap into their creativity. And it's been such a pleasure getting to know you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been great. Yeah,
fantastic.
I was excited. You just you follow your gut, and when we started speaking, like-minded, like energy.
Oh my God. We use the same verbiage too.
Yeah.
It's hilarious because listening to you talk, I'm like, yes, we would have been friends coming up. Like I can see that.
And very diverse.
Yes.
Different businesses.
Absolutely.
Different,
completely different. Yes.
So I like people that have a lot of fabric. So it's great.
Yeah. I know a ton of people I want to connect you with, and you'll be right in alignment with them too. And looking forward
Likewise,
to that.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Excited. It's going to be great.
Yeah, this has been a great episode. And did we get all your links? IMDb?
Yeah, IMDb. Everything else. We've got pretty much everything covered. Yeah, and just come out, and I'll see you on ABC General Hospital.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I'll see you in the theaters.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, James Burbage, guys. That's a wrap.